big friendly giant put the suitcase on the ground. He bent down so low that his enormous face was close to Sophie's. "From now on, we is keeping as still as winky little mices," he whispered. Sophie nodded. The misty vapour swirled around her. It made her cheeks damp and left dewdrops in her hair. The BFG opened the suitcase and took out several empty glass jars. He set them ready on the ground with their screw tops removed. Then he stood up very straight, his head now high up in the swirling mist, and it kept disappearing, then appearing again. He was holding the long net in his right hand. Sophie, staring upwards, saw through the mist that his colossal ears were beginning to swivel out from his head. They began waving gently to and fro. Suddenly the BFG pounced. He leaped high in the air and swung the net through the mist with a great swishing sweep of his arm. "Got him!" he cried. "A jar! A jar! Quick, quick, quick!" Sophie picked up a jar and held it up to him. He grabbed it off her. He lowered the net. He very carefully tipped something absolutely invisible from the net into the jar. He dropped the net and swiftly clapped one hand over the jar. "The top!" he whispered. "The jar top, quick!" Sophie picked up the screw top and handed it to him. He screwed it on tight and the jar was closed. The BFG was very excited. He held the jar close to one ear and listened intently. "It's a wink squiffler," he whispered with a thrill in his voice. It's even better. It's a fizz wizard. It's a golden fizz wizard." Sophie stared at him. "Oh my," he said, holding the jar in front of him. "This will be giving some little toddler a very happy night when I is blowing it in." "Is it a really good one?" Sophie asked. "A good one?" he cried. "It's a golden fizz wizard. It's not often I is getting one of these." He handed the jar to Sophie and said, "Please be as still as a starfish now. I is thinking there may be a whole swarm of fizz wizards up here today. And do kindly stop breathing. You is terribly noisy down there." "Oh, I haven't moved a muscle," Sophie said. "Well, then don't," the BFG answered sharply, and once again he stood up tall in the mist, holding his net at the ready. Then came a long silence, the waiting, the listening, and at last, with surprising suddenness, came the leap and the swish of the net. "Another jar!" he cried. "Quick, quick, quick!" When the second dream was safely in the jar and the top was screwed down, the BFG held it to his ear. "Oh no!" he cried. "Oh, mince my maggots! Oh, swipe my swoggles!" "What's the matter?" "It's a troggle humper," he shouted. His voice was filled with fury and anguish. "Oh, save our souls!" he cried. "Deliver us from weasels. The devil is dancing on my dibbler." "What are you talking about?" Sophie said. The BFG was getting more distressed every moment. "Oh, bash my eye bones!" he cried, waving the jar in the air. "I come all this way to get lovely golden dreams, and what is I catching?" "Yeah, well, what are you catching?" Sophie said. "I is catching a frightsome troggle humper," he cried. "This is a bad, bad dream. It is worse than a bad dream. It is a nightmare." "Oh dear," Sophie said. "What will you do with it?" "I is never letting it go," the BFG cried. "If I do, then some poor little toddler will be having the most curdle-blooding time. This one is really Kixie Bog Thumper. I is exploding it as soon as I get home." "Yeah, nightmares are horrible," Sophie said. "I had one once and I woke up sweating all over." "Oh, with this one you would wake up screaming all over," said the BFG. "This one would make your teeth stand on end. If this one got into you, across the floor. Is it as bad as that? It is worse, cried the BFG. This is a real whoopsie grob switcher. Oh, you said it was a troggle humper. Sophie told him. It is a troggle humper, cried the exasperated BFG, but it is also a bog thumper and a grob switcher. It is all three riddled into one. Oh, I is so glad I is catching it tight. Ah, you wicked beastie, you, he cried, holding up the jar and staring into it. Never more is you going to be bunk-doodling the poor little human beanie toddlers. Sophie, who was staring into the glass jar, cried out, "Oh, I can see it! There's something in there!" "Of course there's something in there," the BFG said. "You was looking at a frightsome troggle humper." "But you told me dreams were invisible." "All they is invisible until they is captured," the BFG told her. "After that, they is losing a little of their invisibility, and we is seeing this one very clearly." Inside the jar, Sophie could see the faint scarlet outline of something that looked like a mixture between a blob of gas and a bubble of jelly. It was moving violently, thrashing against the sides of the jar and forever changing shape. "It's wiggling all over the place," Sophie cried. "It's fighting to get out. It'll bash itself to bits." "Oh, the nastier the dream, the angrier it is getting when it is in prison," the BFG said. "It is the same with the wild animals. If an animal is very fierce and you is putting it in a cage, it will make a tremendous rumpel-dumpus. If it is a nice animal like a cockatoodle or a froggle-frump, it will sit quietly. Dreams is exactly the same. This one is a nasty, fierce, bog-grotting nightmare. Just look at him splashing himself against the glass." "Oh, it's quite frightening," Sophie cried. "Well, I would be hating to get this one inside me on a darksome night," said the BFG. "Yeah, so would I," Sophie said. The BFG started putting the bottles back into the suitcase. "Is that all?" Sophie asked. "Are we going?" "Oh, I is so upset by this troggle-humping, bog-thumping, grob-switcher," the BFG said, "that I is not wishing to go on. Dream-catching is finished for today." Soon Sophie was back in the waistcoat pocket and the BFG was racing home as fast as he could go. When at last they emerged out of the mist and came down to the hot yellow wasteland, all the other giants were sprawled out on the ground, fast asleep. "Oh, they is always having 50 winks before they goes scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening," the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. "Giants is only sleeping every now and then," he said. "Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. Is it ever occurring to you that a human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years sleeping fast?" "Oh, I must admit that it never occurred to me," Sophie said. "Well, you should allow it to occur to you," the BFG said. "Imagine it, please. This human being who says he is 50 has been fast asleep for 20 years and is not even knowing where he is, not even doing anything, not even thinking." "Oh, that's a funny thought," Sophie said. "Exactly," the BFG said. "So what I was trying to explain to you is that a human being who says he's 50 is not 50, he's only 30. "Well, what about me? I'm 8. "Oh, you was not 8 at all," the BFG said. "Human being babies and little childlers is spending half their time sleeping, so you was only 4. "Oh, I'm 8, Sophie said. "Or you may think you was 8, the BFG said, "but you has only spent 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You was only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who was hundreds of years more than you. Well, how much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. Well, they is never wasting much time snozzling. The BFG said only 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie asked it. Or even less. The BFG answered, I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake. Sprawled out across the yellow plain, they covered an area about the size of a football field. Most of them were lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open, and they were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly, the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gum frog, he cried. I is just having the most whoopsie-whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers, keep your skirt on. Just you wait. See what I is going to bring about. And he galloped off fast to his cave with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of the pocket. He rolled back the stone, entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you was in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of buck squashling both together. And he laid aside the dream-catching net but hung onto the suitcase. He ran to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said, then you will get a fine winkle of what's going on. When the BFG came near to the sleeping giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. They were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, and the meat dripper, and the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the flesh lump eater. He pointed at him, then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt down on the ground, very quietly opened the suitcase. He took out the glass jar containing the terrible, nightmarish troggle humper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of the sight of the very, very fast if anything should go wrong. They were about 10 feet away from the flesh lump eater's face. The snorting noise was making a disgusting noise. Every now and then, a big bubble of spit formed between his 2 open lips. And then it would burst with a splash to cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet troggle humper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the flesh lump eater's face, took a big breath and puffed out his cheeks, and then went whoosh. He blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face. For a split second it hovered above his face, then it was gone. It seemed to be sucked up the giant's nose. But it all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. We had better be skiddling away quick to where it's safe, the BFG whispered. He trotted off for about 100 yards, then he stopped. He crouched low on the earth. Now, he said, we is waiting for the gun and flames to begin. And they didn't have to wait long. The air was suddenly pierced with the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard. When she saw the flesh lump eater's body, all 54 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump, it began to wriggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. Yeah! Roared the flesh lump eater. Yeah! He's still asleep, the BFG whispered. The terrible troggle humping nightmare is beginning to hit him. Serves him right, Sophie said. She could feel no sympathy for this great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. "Save us!" screamed the flesh lump eater, thrashing about madly. "He's after me! He's getting me!" The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms became more violent by the second. It was an awesome thing to see, to watch such a massive creature having such a mighty convulsion. "It's Jack!" bellowed the flesh lump eater. "It's the Grooveful Crunches, Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whack-cackling me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splash-plunking me! It's the terrible fright-swiping Jack!" The flesh lump eater was writhing about over the ground like some colossal tortured snake. "Oh, spare me, Jack!" he yelled. "Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who is this Jack he's on about?" Sophie whispered. "Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of," the BFG told her. "They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer." "Save me!" screamed the flesh lump eater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant. The beanstalk, he's coming at me with this terrible spike-sticking beanstalk. Take it away. I is begging you. Jack, I is praying you do not touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk." "Us giants," the BFG whispered, "is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is knowing only that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. We is knowing also that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing and Jack is using it to kill giants." Sophie couldn't stop smiling. "What is you griggling at?" the BFG asked her, slightly nettled. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute so much, to an extent, that he was tying his whole body into knots. "Do not do it, Jack!" he screeched. "I is not eating you, Jack. I is never eating human beings. I swear, I has never gobbled a single human being in my wholesome life." "Oh, liar," said the BFG. Just then, one of the flesh lump eater's flailing fists caught the fast asleep, meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring, gizzard-gulping giant right in the guts. Both the injured giants woke up and leapt to their feet. "He is driving me right in the mouth," yelled the meat dripper. "He is bung-swoggling me smack in the guts," shouted the gizzard gulper. The two of them rushed at the flesh lump eater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched flesh lump eater woke up with a bang. He woke straight from one nightmare into another. He roared into battle, and in the bellowing, thumping, rough and tumble that followed, one sleeping giant after another either got stepped on or kicked. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet and having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and bit and butted each other as hard as they could. Blood flowed, noses went crunch, teeth fell out like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed, and for many minutes the noise of the battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big wide smile of absolute pleasure. "Oh, I is loving it when they is all having a good rough and tumble," he said. "Don't kill each other," Sophie said. "Oh, never," the BFG answered. "Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky and they will all be galloping off to fill their tummies. They're coarse and foul and filthy." Sophie said, "I hate them." As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "We certainly is putting that nightmare to good use though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," Sophie said. "Well done you." Alright, and well done us. That's the end of that chapter. Thank you for listening. The next chapter is called Dreams. Isn't that amazing? Great book. Alright,